Welcome to the West Tennessee Box Score. A very special edition today. We got Dexter Williams and Kirk Geohring with us today, coaching staff at TCA, and we're going to talk a little TCA hoops, and we're also going to go back in time a little bit and revisit some of our playing days, or these two guys' playing days. My playing days aren't much to talk about, so we'll stick with them. But first of all, we'll start out talking TCA hoops this year, because I know mamas and daddies, if they watch this, they're going to hear about their kids. So Dexter, what's it looking like this year? District, region, your team. Tell me a little bit about you.
Fairly different team this year. We've had some success the last 4 years, and we look forward to being successful again this year, just in a different way. We're off to a 1 and 2 start. Of course, 2 of those games we played last week without our football players.
Right.
They made a very deep run this year. Got to the state semifinals for the first time, I think, in 15 years, I believe.
They have had a really good season.
We're very proud of them, and we're prepared and hoping, we'll go a little bit further.
Right.
But last week we opened up with Chester County and Southside, lost to both of them. Got the football kids back last night. Got 2 of the 3 back. Played Haywood in here and beat Haywood last night.
That's big. That's a good win.
Absolutely. Anytime you can beat a team like Haywood, that's a good win with the history they have. So we're looking forward to a good year. Got to get those guys in shape. It's a big difference coming off the football field.
Right. It's a whole different kind of shape.
Absolutely. So I think we'll have another great year. Like I said, we'll look a little different, doing things a little differently on both ends of the floor, defensively and offensively. But I think it's going to be good this year.
Awesome. And Kirk, is this your first year assistant?
Yeah. Dexter called and asked me to help out, work with the post players, and that's kind of what I love to do anyway. I do have my sisters, I guess the oldest, they're twins. I forget which one's the oldest, but he's on the team. Luckily, he's not a post player.
So he don't have to deal with it.
But Dexter and I coached together for years with our kids in the AAU circuit.
Right.
And of course, we played college basketball together, and anytime I can work with my friend, it's just a joy. So,
right.
No doubt.
Well, speaking of playing, we were talking on the phone the other day, and I remember all those years, me and you graduated the same year. Never played against each other in high school.
Right.
Never. In college, I was so academically ineligible when I first got to Bethel. I don't know how that happened. So I missed the Union game. I didn't play till after. So I never got to play against you, but I did go to an Adamsville, West Carroll sub-state game.
Yeah.
And I tell people about this all the time.
Yeah.
Never have I seen a crowd like West Carroll.
Yeah.
Your crowd was singing in 3-part harmony.
Absolutely.
Man, tell us a little bit about West Carroll and that atmosphere. What was it like growing up playing ball there?
Well, you're from a small town just like I am, and athletics means so much. To small towns, honestly, there's just not a whole lot to do. Outside of that. So anytime you have a football game, basketball game, whatever, those people they're gonna pack the stands, man. And you're right about them singing. It was like they had choir rehearsal.
It was.
Right?
It was unbelievable.
There's a by what you heard, and they get that going, man. And
something about I'm so glad I'm from
so
West
glad
Carroll.
I go. Now, honestly, I think they stole that from TSU.
Okay.
But I'm so glad I go to West Carroll High. Singing Glory Hallelujah.
Yes.
I'm so glad.
Yes. The Glory Hallelujahs were raining down in Adamsville that night, but that was
absolutely. And I can remember that game like it was yesterday, man. The crowd, of course, Matt Hoover was on that Adamsville team. We ended up being college roommates and teammates. Great player. And that was a great atmosphere, man. And I'm almost thinking, you sure we didn't play against each other in high school? You were at Camden, right?
No, I was at Scotts Hill.
You were at Scotts. I just remember the yellow and black.
Yes, I was at Scotts Hill.
Okay, we did not get.
We never played. I followed you in the newspapers, and that's kind of what we're trying to bring back with the box scores, where you can keep up with what your buddies are doing. But I don't think we ever actually got to play against each other.
We did not play Scotts Hill. I was thinking Camden, but yeah, man, those. The atmosphere that we had at West Carroll, man, it didn't matter if we were at home, on the road. Like I said, again, there's not a whole lot to do.
No.
So they're going to go to those games.
Those are great times. And I just wrote an article on our website entitled 1992, and you're mentioning there quite a bit. We talked about Delk, how every fire law in West Tennessee was broke for about a 6-month stretch. There was just fire code violation. But, Northside High School.
Yeah.
I can remember turning on the TV WBBJ, watching highlights, and seeing you play, and I'm playing 2 guard, and went to LSU first, but recruited. Now, David Lee, we have a mutual friend. David Lee's one of my closest friends. I know y'all are pretty close because he's wanting me to get you to tell buck snort stories. And I was like, I'm not on camera to talk about.
I've got a few,
to talk about buck snort, but tell me a little about the recruiting process. Who all recruited you, and how did you end up?
Yes.
And maybe a Shaq story if you've got one.
Yeah, I do. So before I go on, the game you're talking about, it's a funny story. So I had transferred back from Pepperdine, had a plan that night to go out and maybe talk to a young lady at a sorority party, and Mark Campbell, who was a graduate assistant when I got there, came up that night and said, "Hey, you're going with me tonight. There's two kids we're recruiting playing against each other." And I was like, "Okay, well, where are we talking about?" And he says, "I think it was in Adamsville." He says, "Well, Adamsville." And I said, "Where's Adamsville?" And so anyway, I was at that game, and that's probably the first time I talked to both Matt and Dexter.
Okay.
And, but anyway, it was funny because I kept telling him, "No, I don't want to go because I've got this thing worked out." And he grabbed me by both arms and he looked at me in the face. He got real close and he said, "Son, if you want to play with anybody at this college, you're coming with me tonight." So I got in the car, and it was interesting because I got to do that at the time I was probably 20, 21 years old, and I got to go out and meet new people and recruit, and I had never done that. So back to your question, my recruitment was interesting. That was a different time of basketball. My style of play at the time was not what a lot of teams were looking for. And so the Tennessees, Arkansas, Georgias, they didn't recruit me. So Vanderbilt, Ole Miss, Boston College, Virginia Tech, VCU, believe it or not, before it's famous now, but LSU. But at the very end, I wanted to try to play at the highest level I could, and I was bred and raised. My dad raised me to be the star, and so at the very end, it was Louisville, which was Denny Crum, and LSU. I was born in Baton Rouge. Went on my recruiting visits and loved both. I think, to be honest with you, Louisville would have been a better fit. Chose LSU, and it took me a minute to realize I wasn't going to be the star. So transferred to Pepperdine, had a coach that I loved my redshirt year. He had his daughter and his father die during that time. And so got a new coach in, and me and the new coach did not see eye to eye. And so that's when I transferred back to Union. But Shaq stories, probably the funniest story I've got with Shaq. Move into the dorms. It was 3 or 4 weeks before school started, and I get a call that, "Hey, we're going to do pickup down at the PMAC. There's a couple guys going to come in and play pickup." And so I said, "Okay." Of course, I had watched them for years, and so I go down there, PMAC, practice gym, and there's Shaq, Stanley Roberts, Chris Jackson, Harold Boudreaux, Vernell Singleton. I mean, all the guys are there. They're getting ready for the NBA. Yeah, so I get picked up. Back then I could shoot a little bit, and so we come down. We're just no referees, no coaches, just gym and guys. And so I come down. Somebody throws me the ball. I hit a three. Come back down. Throw me the ball. I hit a three. Going down the court, Shaq looks at me and says, "Man, you can shoot it." And so at the time I was a little full of myself. And so I looked at Shaquille O'Neal and I said, "Yeah, you might want to get somebody to guard me." And so come back down on the other end. I catch it. Goes up. He goaltends it horrifically. I mean, just goaltends it. And I'm standing over there like, "That's goaltending." And he just looks at me and says, "What?" And I just said, "Okay." I just ran the other end. And I didn't say anything else. So, he was really a great guy. Nice, friendly human being. And,
he seems outgoing just from his personality on TV.
Yeah.
But,
he was, that in my recruiting visit, they put one of his shoes on my lap. I wear a size 14. His was 21. And that shoe was this big. I'm a big guy. All the way across my lap, and he is a humble person and always gave back to the university, and we appreciate that.
Well, Dexter, I've got to ask you too. One of the things that, this was a couple of years ago now. I'm gonna go back just a few years, not too far. I'm sitting at home one day. I didn't know anything about it. Again, some things just slip by me without me knowing it. I turn on the TV, the Jackson Underdogs.
Oh yeah.
They're on ESPN, and it's just like Dexter Williams is coaching the Jackson Underdogs, and then point guard. What's his name?
Anthony Sampson.
I'm going to tell you an Anthony Sampson story.
Okay.
Brian Haskins, Bucky, they get me in this pickup tournament. You used to go play in these open tournaments.
Right.
And we're grown men. Sampson was, I think he was, did he play at Freed?
He did.
I think he was at Freed at the time. So we get in this open tournament, and Haskins got us in there, and he's like, "Hey, Hampton, you're guarding him." And I was like, all right. there's no guarding him to start with. And then that meant he was guarding me. I couldn't get the ball to half court. He kept picking him, and I was like, Haskins, you're running the point if you're wanting me to play in this. But anyway, he was amazingly talented to me just playing against him that one time. And I was like, this guy, you look at him and you're like, don't underestimate him. But tell me about how the underdogs got started. How did you get into that? That was
Yeah, well, Anthony Sampson and a lot of those guys that I coached at Liberty, Antoine, Juwan, Josh Sane, Devon Jones, a lot of those guys, they would go around in the summertime and play in tournaments in Atlanta, a lot in the Southeast. A lot of these tournaments were for cash prizes. And some kind of way they stumbled upon this $2 million tournament called TBT, the basketball tournament. So it intrigued them, of course, that kind of money to play a basketball tournament.
Right.
So they kind of got some guys together. And the missing piece, they were needing a coach. Okay, I knew nothing of this tournament, never heard of it. And I think Antoine Long and Anthony called me and asked me would I coach them in this tournament. They told me about the cash prize. I said, oh, yeah.
Sure.
I'll be glad to do that. Plus, it was exciting for me to get a chance to coach those guys again.
Right.
Having them all in high school. We played in it a couple years and were pretty successful. Then that third year, we made it all the way to the Elite Eight. We played out in Chicago. Of course, those games were on ESPN.
Yes.
We played in this arena, that Chicago Sky.
Man, I was rooting hard for y'all.
Yeah,
I think it kind of caught the attention of people around here.
It really did. There was a buzz here in West Tennessee. We had a lot of followers, during that time. And you talk about a very competitive tournament. Those guys were pros out there.
Right.
And if you remember our roster, we did not have those kind of guys.
No.
We had some guys that clock in every day. They go to work.
They could play,
but they compete and they know how to win. They know how to play the game, and we were very successful. And quite honestly, man, the underdogs were kind of known, across the country.
No, they were.
Just because how we play.
Yeah.
Seth Greenberg, he mentions us every year still today. I'm talking about one of his favorite teams is the Jackson Underdogs. Just the tenacity and the toughness and the togetherness that they brought to the table. So it was a very fun tournament.
I really enjoyed watching it. And I'm going to go back over here to you again. We'll kind of mention this out there. When I was coming up, and I was a little behind you. I was 95, you were 92. I was never exposed to any kind of AAU. Summer, you went to camp with your team, and we played pickup ball anywhere you could play. That was just, everybody had played pickup.
That's how you learned, yeah.
Yeah, but you were a part of the first actual AAU in this area. I stumbled across an article about that. Tell me some of the guys that were in that with you.
Yeah, so I don't really remember how. I think maybe they reached out to my dad and said, hey, we want him to try out. So back then, Memphis had a couple teams, Memphis YMCA, Memphis Idlewild. There was a few more. It was mainly churches would have these teams, and there wasn't many across the country. And I showed up to Memphis Melrose one night. First guy I met was Mike Wilson that played with me at a 50-something inch vertical leap.
I remember him too.
Rodney Newsom was on that team. Deuce Ford played at Fairleigh, was a coach a couple years ago over there. But Stevie Hamer and Stanley Caldwell were on that team as well. And it was some of the funnest basketball ever because number one, you had to play at a high level. Remember, we were in high school and we were used to just the ball comes to me and I'm going to be the one that shoots it. And in that level, you can't play like that. Right. So our big rival, to be honest with you, in the country was the Memphis YMCA, who had Tony Dell, LaMarcus Golden, those guys. And so probably one of my funniest stories about that, we were good. I want to say we were second, third in the country in 16U when I was playing. And we would enter these tournaments, and if the YMCA wasn't there, we just run everybody. And so one day, Wilfong came up and said, hey, you guys getting a little full of yourself. We're going to sign you up for 18U. And I said, okay, no problem. And so first game we played was at Memphis YMCA. It was Anthony Hardaway. and we got beat, I don't know, I think they dunked over 40 times on us. I mean, and it was embarrassing. But one of the best things that came out of that, and I think everybody on that team felt the same way, is that was never going to happen again, ever. And sometimes, I tell that story. It's good to lose sometimes. You learn a lot more by losing than you do winning. No doubt.
Being humbled is not always a bad. Always a bad thing. it changes your perspective.
That's right.
I joke when I was at Bethel, we
Yeah.
played Sanford the year they went to the Sweet 16. We were their money game. They paid us a lot of
Yeah.
money to come down there.
Yeah.
You know, we had competed with UT Martin, which is small D1.
Oh, yeah?
And, you know, you're thinking, you know, we can play with whoever.
Oh, yeah.
There's not a big deal. We got to Sanford. They beat us 84 to 30 something. When I would cross half court, the guy guarded me to stick me with a forearm. I couldn't move. We were running our offense from the backside of half.
Yeah.
I was like, no,
Yeah.
these guys are, this is a different
Different ballgame.
different animal.
Yeah.
Let's see, Dexter, let me come back to you again. Union, your time at Union. Of course, I know y'all both played there together.
Yeah.
My Bethel friends would kill me if I didn't bring up the game where, you know, Bobby Kelly was out, Mike Termos was out, Treon Ridges, my good buddy Scott Bates picked his pocket twice,
Okay.
and Big Doug hit some fadeaways, and Bethel upset Union that night. And you can tell a story about beating up on Bethel, but I promised them I would mention, you know, that upset of Bethel upsetting Union. But I know y'all pretty much handled them most games, but I had to bring that one up.
Yeah,
But,
and I had forgotten about that. I think that may have been Treon's first year.
I think it was.
At
And there was a
Union.
lot of hype with him. And I mean, he could play,
Man,
obviously.
could he brought just a style of basketball here in West Tennessee that we just weren't playing like that.
Yeah.
So he was a great player. But yeah, I remember that upset.
Yeah, so I'm sorry, I was just.
I appreciate you
bringing that up. But I was going to let you tell any story you wanted from your Union time too, because I know y'all usually handled Bethel, but
Yeah, of course that was a rival game. I mean, you know, being right here in West Tennessee, I think we were all in the Trans-South back then. Is that what it was?
Trans-South.
Yeah, that was some great games then, man. With
Right.
Lambeth, Bethel, of course, us, and
David
Lipscomb, Belmont, Birmingham Southern, man, Lion. That was.
My first year at Bethel, we went to the KIAC, but we played a full Trans-South schedule. We won the KIAC and only won 6 games.
Okay.
Because we lost every game we played against those old Birmingham Southern killed us.
Those
Union
were some great basketball.
killed us.
Really
Lambeth
good.
killed us. Of course, Lambeth had that kid. They called him Bug. James Foster. Yeah.
from Kentucky.
Yeah, he was a special kind of athlete
Yeah.
back in those days.
Yeah.
And then your time at Union too. You got one full year there or two?
2 years, yeah. Yeah, my junior year would have been Dexter's freshman year.
That's right.
And we brought in, the year that I came, when Ralph Turner called me, I was looking at options and thought about Vanderbilt, Western Kentucky, some other offers that I had. But I had gone to David Lipscomb camp since I was 8 years old and always loved Ralph Turner. And when he came to Union, he called me and said, hey, just come see me, I want to talk. And I went over there and met the team, and he had 7 players, I think, left. 4 of them were walk-on. The rest had left or he had kicked them off. And, you know, it was an opportunity to be a part of something with him and to build that. But I didn't expect us to have the success that we had that early. You know, one of the things, I was fortunate enough, after him, of course, get put in the Hall of Fame, Union. And one of the things that looking back on that career that I think I'm most proud of is that first year we started a trend of 18 years of positive winning percentages in the men's basketball program,
awesome.
and it hadn't been that before that.
Right.
And so, but we got Dexter, Matt Hoover, we got some serious players that some of them, to be honest, Galen Moore, Anthony Brooks, turned out to be great players. Were not getting to play when I played, but turned out to be great players. And it was just it was a fun style of basketball, kind of what we're doing here at Trinity. We had some inside play and we had outside play, and we had kids that could get after you, and we had kids that could dribble the basketball, and it was like he said, the competition level kind of shocked me a bit. You know, those games at David Lipscomb and Belmont, and they had a lot of kids that could play in this league.
Oh, one of the, I don't know if it'll be next week or 2 weeks. I'm going to write an article on what my dad always called the Holy Wars.
Yeah.
And it was the old Trans-South that I shared the story, I think, on another podcast. He played it free, my dad did, and he played for a guy named Dick Stewart, who they went over and lost to Bethel. And Dick Stewart made the comment, I'm the only Baptist who can take a bunch of Camelites and get to beat out of us by a bunch of Presbyterians. And
Can't say that anymore.
No, can't say that anymore. But I'm actually the Holy Wars. When I was a kid, he would take me. We'd go to Bader Gymnasium, the tiny little gym at Freed, you know. And, of course, right as I was coming up, they got really good. Cheeky Stevenson, Andre Mayo, Michael Gaines. They had some really good teams, but I'm gonna try to touch on the Holy Wars from when it was on.
That'd be funny.
And I've got one more question for each of you, I think. I did want to ask you, because you mentioned earlier those guys that played in the TBT for you, but when you were at Liberty, those state championship teams, man, that was West Tennessee. Those are legendary West Tennessee teams. Give me something about your Liberty days, because I remember those well, following y'all. Had some battles with Bolivar down too.
Well, of course, Liberty opened in 2003, brand new high school back then. I was hired on as the first coach there, first basketball coach. So it was a very unique and special situation because I didn't come in behind anybody.
Right.
I had nobody to follow, no standard to live up to, or no standard to let down. Kind of got to come in and kind of just build it myself. And just fortunate, we were blessed to be able to do that. But I guess the most unique thing about that is opening in 2003, and then 3 years later, which is a very short time, winning the first boys state basketball championship for the city of Jackson.
Right.
And I was, at the time when that happened, when we were in that process, getting late, getting deep in the regional tournament, sub-state winning, I had no clue that I just knew somebody from Jackson that won the state championship before,
right.
at least one.
At least one, somewhere.
Yeah, and I think Bob Heist, you remember Bob Heist, he was one of Jackson's Sun sports writers. When we were getting ready to go to state, he just brought it up. He said, nobody from Jackson ever won a state championship, and I just couldn't believe that. But those guys, man, played hard, played the right way. We were fortunate enough to win one in 06, first one for the city. I think we lost 3 games that year to Bolivar, all 3. 2 in the regular season, and then again in the district championship game.
I was at that game. I was
Could
there.
you get in?
It was
really?
Well,
as packed as it was.
You could cheat the fire codes back then, like I said.
And we finally beat them in the game that really mattered, that regional championship game, to get the opportunity to host that sub-state game. Of course, the crowds we had at Liberty, we were hosting, we were about going to win.
Right.
So, we won that year. They came back the next year, brought everybody back pretty much. We lost about 3 or 4 seniors, kids that could really play. One went to ECU, one went over to Lane. So we had some guys that, college level guys that we lost, but we brought a lot back. And I'm telling you, man, going into that 2006, 2007 season, do you remember that? I don't remember the name of that magazine they used to publish at the beginning of every basketball season, maybe Prep Hoops.
I know what you're talking about.
It was a national magazine,
yeah.
Okay? I was looking at that magazine one day, and Liberty Tech was ranked in the nation. Could not believe it.
That's awesome.
Could not believe it. You talking like Simeon, Derrick Rose, Oak Hill, and there's Liberty down there about 17 or 18 in the country at the time. So, at that point, we started getting invited to these big tournaments that year, out at the City of Palms Classic out there.
Right.
We went out there, man, and, we were playing against Tyreek Evans, Nick Calathis, I forget, is it Brandon Powell, maybe? Parsons, Chandler Parsons.
Chandler Parsons, yeah.
We're playing against those guys, man. Taylor King, that was at Modern Day, that went to Duke. And we were runner-up in that tournament. We played Modern Day in that championship game and lost to Modern Day by 5.
Oh, that's awesome.
That year. It's funny you asked about those teams because today Sep is at Rulo.
Yeah.
Is over at Liberty doing their floor. He called me this morning. He said, man, I'm calling you. I got a really crazy question for you right now. I said, what is it, Sep? He said, I'm looking at this banner in this gym right now. And in 07, y'all had 3 losses. Who beat y'all? Because he couldn't remember. I can't remember who in the world beat y'all. I said, well, you wouldn't remember because we lost to nobody from Tennessee.
Right.
I said, we lost those 3 losses that year. One was to Modern Day, Taylor King. The second one was to Dr. Kropp out of Miami, Florida. And then the third loss was to Oak Hill Academy. Those were the 3 losses that we had that year.
I don't know if you remember this when you said Oak Hill Academy. When they came to Union to play.
I do remember.
And they
played after them. Everybody left them.
They played O'Brien County. I was at that game, and Robin Cood, Palmer.
Yeah, they almost beat them.
They came out draining threes. And what was it? Staples was at Oak Hill. Curtis Staples was at Oak Hill, and Robin Cood was just giving them buckets.
And the big post they had in there.
Matt. He went to Murray State.
Yes.
I can't think of his last name. Either. Going blank. But Cood, if you watch this, for one day you were my hero there, just dropping bombs on Oak Hill Academy. That Palmer kid hit a bunch of threes that day too. But, all right, my last question for you, just because I said I wasn't going to do it, but he's pestered me. David Lee really wants you to tell a Bucksnort story. And if y'all don't know Coach Lee was a longtime friend of both of ours. Great basketball guy, great coach. He's got a son right now coming up. It's going to be a heck of a player.
Yeah.
So, but we'll get a Bucksnort.
So I didn't grow up a Hunter. Okay,
Right.
so David and I got to be friends at Union. We were hanging out, and he mentioned one day my brother-in-law liked to hunt deer, and he said, well, why don't you come home and hunt deer with me? And I said, in Bucksnort. He said, yeah, Bucksnort. I said, okay. So long story short, there's 2 ridges. He puts me up on this ridge, and he tells me to get on this ladder stand, and I'm going to sit there, and I'm waiting for a big deer. And he goes over here. Well, the day before, I had told him, I said, well, I'm going to hold out for a big, nice deer. I don't have a big, nice deer. And he looks at me and he says, no, those are tough and they're gamey. You want the younger the deer, the better, you know? And I was like, okay. And so anyway, I went against everything I knew about hunting. So I get up there and I get in that stand. I'm sitting there and David says, are you okay? I said, yeah. He said, well, I'm going to go to mine. He goes down the holler, goes up the holler. I can't see him, but light comes up. Bam! You hear a shot. And I was kind of like, wow, I haven't even seen a deer, you know? And so then I look, and David Lee's walking down that ridge, and he's not dragging the deer. He's got that deer by the scruff of his neck, just walking like he just shot the littlest deer in the world. Of course, I'm just sitting there going, where did I go? But yeah, dear friend, great guy.
That's David Lee, man, we're going to get David Lee on a podcast here one day, too. That'll be entertaining for everybody.
Make sure you ask him about our garbage disposal. That's
okay.
A good
All right. Well, guys, is there anything I'm forgetting that y'all want to share while we've got you on here?
No, I just add, man, I appreciate you kind of bringing this whole vibe back to West Tennessee, because I know the idea behind it, but you mentioned the box scores.
The box scores.
Like, we all remember after game nights, we're going to go look.
And you got to get 10 points, man. Your whole name, you don't get your whole name without 10 points.
Yeah. And I hate over the years, man, that the kids today, they don't get a chance to experience that.
Yeah.
Man. That was great. So thank you for what you're doing.
Well, I appreciate it. I hope it'll catch on, but I've enjoyed, this has been my favorite part, though, is coaches who've allowed me to come into their buildings. And I've sit in 4 different coaches' offices now, just sitting down with players and coaches and talking hoops like this. And it's our goal is to try to bring some of the past back and remember, but also promote these young kids coming up now. And I hope we're able to serve the community in that way. But
absolutely,
man, thank you guys.
Thank you, bro.
Both so much, and I really enjoyed it. Thanks a lot. And also, I want to give a shout out to Noah Smith today. This one may look a little better. We're not shooting this on my iPhone 4, so we've stepped up production today. So thank you a lot, Noah, back there behind the scenes. But all right, thanks a lot. And I guess that's a wrap.